So you're thinking about gaming on Linux, and maybe you watched one too many privacy videos and now you're paranoid about Windows telemetry. Maybe you just want to feel superior in the YouTube comment sections. Or maybe, just maybe, you're tired of Windows deciding to update in the middle of... Well, I've got some shocking news for you. Gaming on Linux is actually good, like legitimately good. Okay, so first things first, we need to talk about Proton. And no, not the particle. Proton is Valve's compatibility layer that basically translates Windows games into Linux language. It's like having a really good interpreter at the UN, except instead of translating French to English, it's translating DirectX to Vulkan. But here's the thing, Steam now enables Proton by default on Linux. You literally just click install on a Windows game and Steam goes, yeah, I got you. No terminal commands, no config files, no sacrificing a USB to Linus Torvalds. I'm playing games that were never designed for Linux and they just run. Elden Ring runs great. Cyberpunk 2077, yup. The Witcher 3, yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 runs perfect. It's honestly kind of like dark magic. Now, does everything work? No, but we'll get into that nightmare in a minute. But the compatibility rate is genuinely impressive. We're talking thousands of games that just work out of the box. ProtonDB is an awesome website where you can check out if your favorite game runs on Linux, and the amount of gold and platinum rated games is kind of insane. The good part is most single player games work flawlessly, often with performance comparable to Windows, sometimes even better than Windows, which is hilarious. But the catch is, you're basically one Proton update away from something breaking. It's rare, but it happens, so welcome to the fun of compatibility layers. But something that always works is today's sponsor, KeysFan. With affordable and genuine keys for Windows 10 and 11 to get rid of those activation watermarks. But if you need more, they have all sorts of keys, including operating systems back to Windows XP and even Microsoft Office applications. You can get 50% off of all the Windows series keys with code ERROR50 and 62% off of Microsoft Office series with code ERROR62. All you have to do is add the item that you want to your cart, and then at checkout, apply the code that corresponds to the item you want the discount on, and it will be applied to your order. So make sure to check them out today to get the keys you need with the links down in the description. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Steam Deck. Valve literally made a handheld console that runs Linux, which forced them to really make sure gaming on Linux works. Thanks, Gabe. The Steam Deck uses SteamOS, which is Linux, which means every game that works on the Steam Deck works on Linux desktop. And since Valve wants the Steam Deck to be successful, they've been throwing money at making Proton better. Now, this is actually huge because it means that developers now have a financial incentive to make sure that their games work on Linux. Before, Linux gamers were like 1% of the market, and developers were like, yeah, we'll get to that never. But now Steam Deck is popular, and suddenly Linux support is actually on the roadmap. Plus, seeing how well games run on the Steam Deck, which is basically a gaming tablet, really shows you how optimized Linux has become, and if it can run on a handheld, it'll definitely run on a desktop with a proper GPU. Okay, so we've been talking about Windows games on Linux, but let's give some love to actual native Linux games. The good news, there are way more than you think, but the bad news is they're mostly indie games and Valve titles. So what actually runs on Linux? Well, every Valve game, duh. CS2, Dota 2, TF2, a lot of 2s, Portal, the Half-Life series, a ton of indie classics like Terraria, Stardew Valley, Hollow Knight, Dead Cells, Celeste, and some AAA game surprises like Civ 6, the Total War series, and the Borderlands series, and the Metro series. These games run better on Linux than through Proton because, you know, they're actually designed for it. It's like the difference between speaking a language and using Google Translate. Both work, but one is definitely smoother. But here's the funny thing. Sometimes the Proton version of the game runs better than the native Linux version because the developers haven't updated the Linux version in years. So you end up running the Windows version through Proton on Linux because it's ironically more stable. All right, so time to address the elephant in the room. Actually, it's more like a whale, a very angry whale that doesn't want you to play competitive multiplayer games. Anti-cheat software. Okay, so here's the deal. Many competitive online games use kernel-level anti-cheat software, you know, the kind that basically has root access to your entire system. Yeah, that stuff. And a lot of these anti-cheat systems do not play nice with Linux. Some games that don't work are Valorant, Riot Vanguard hates Linux with a passion, League of Legends, Vanguard strikes again, Destiny 2, they literally banned Linux users, so RIP I guess, Call of Duty, well, most of them, Rainbow Six Siege, and Fortnite, even though the anti-cheat supports Linux, Epic just won't enable it. And the irony? Both Easy Anti-Cheat and BattlEye, two of the most biggest anti-cheat systems, support Linux. The developers just have to flip a switch, but many don't because reasons. Fear, not caring about 1% of the market, your guess is as good as mine. Some games that do work though are Apex Legends, which is BattlEye enabled, Elden Ring, but no anti-cheat in single player, obviously. CS2, Valve's own VAC, works great. Dead by Daylight, which is anti-cheat enabled, and Lost Ark, which is also anti-cheat enabled. So if you're a hardcore competitive shooter fan who only plays Valorant and Destiny 2, Linux gaming might not be for you. Yet. Maybe. Who knows? Epic might wake up one day and just flip that switch. But if you're more into single-player games, co-op, or games that are Linux-friendly anti-cheat, you're golden. So let's talk performance, because this is where it gets interesting. In a lot of cases, games run about 90–95% of Windows performance, which sounds bad, but honestly, you probably won't notice. I mean, we're talking about 120 frames to 115 frames, so oh no, whatever shall we do? But here's where it gets wild. Some games actually run better on Linux. I know, right? I didn't believe it either, but Valve's been optimizing the heck out of their graphics stack, and some games just perform better, especially if they use Vulkan instead of DirectX, so sorry NVIDIA users. But what this means for you is lower system overhead so you can have more resources to games. Vulkan performance is often excellent, no Windows bloat eating your RAM, and shader compilation is getting way better. But there is always a bad side, which means DirectX 11 games can be a hit or miss. Shader compilation stutters the first time you run a game. Some games have weird bugs that take time to fix, and frame pacing can be wonky in some titles. Now here is where it can get weird, but also good. Sometimes the Windows version through Proton runs better than native Linux versions. Some games randomly get 10% more performance on Linux for no clear reason, and emulators run amazingly well on Linux. Looking at you, Dolphin, and RPCS3. Honestly, if you've got decent hardware, like a relatively modern GPU, 16 gigs of RAM, you're not gonna have performance issues with most games, and the days of Linux gaming means potato performance are over. So what's it actually like to game on Linux day to day? Well, you install Linux, which Pop! OS, Ubuntu, Manjaro are great for gaming. You install Steam, enable Proton, which most likely is already enabled, install whatever game you want to play the game. And for 80% of games, it's literally that simple. You wouldn't even know you're not on Windows. I mean, you would, but you know what I'm trying to say. Sometimes you need to tweak things, install a custom Proton version, change the launch option, download a community fix, visit ProtonDB, and copy and paste some commands, but it's not hard, but it requires some Googling. But here's the thing, the Linux gaming community is incredibly helpful. Someone has already had your problem, documented it, posted the fix, and the Steam Deck community especially has been a goldmine for fixes and tweaks. But some extra tools you might need are Lutris for non-Steam games, it works amazing, Heroic Games Launcher for Epic Games, yes, you can play Epic Games on Linux, Bottles for running Windows games and applications, GameScope for better performance and HDR support, and Mango HUD if you really want it for FPS monitoring and performance stats. But the great thing is that none of these are required, but they're nice to have in your toolkit. Alright, so real talk time. Should you actually switch to Linux for gaming? I think it would be a yes if you mainly play single-player games, you're into indie games and Steam library classics, you value your privacy and open source software, you're comfortable troubleshooting occasionally, and you don't play overly competitive shooters with aggressive anti-cheat. And you should not switch if you only play Valorant, League, or Fortnite, you need specific Windows-only software for work or streaming, which you could always dual boot. You want absolutely zero troubleshooting ever, which we can get into that later. You want to play a lot of games on day one release, which you usually have to wait a week or so for Proton updates. You're heavily invested in the Game Pass. Cloud gaming works, but downloads do not. And you should consider dual booting if you want the best of both worlds, you're curious but not ready to commit to Linux, or if you play some incompatible games but just want to try Linux. And honestly, if you're even slightly interested, just try it. Make a USB drive, boot from it, test your games. You don't even have to install anything. A live USB is a thing. I mean, you can see if your games work. If they do, cool. If not, you didn't lose anything. And here's the exciting part. Linux gaming is only going to get better. Valve keeps improving Proton, more developers are enabling anti-cheat support, the Steam Deck is getting more popular, AMD and Intel have excellent Linux drivers, even NVIDIA is slowly getting better, though they're still kind of a pain. We're at a point where gaming on Linux isn't a punchline anymore, it's a legitimate option for a huge chunk of gamers. I mean, not everyone, but way more people than 5 years ago. And honestly, the Windows gaming experience has gotten worse. Forced telemetry, ads in the start menu, forced Microsoft account, aggressive updates, Windows 11's ridiculous requirements. Meanwhile, Linux is just sitting there, waiting, working, not forcing updates on you or requiring a Microsoft account. So there you have it, gaming on Linux. Is it perfect? No. Is it way better than it used to be? Absolutely. Will it replace Windows for everyone? Probably not, but you can replace Windows for you, maybe. The only way to find out is to try it. Boot up that live USB, test your game, see what happens. You might be surprised. And hey, worst case scenario, finally understand what all those "I use Arch by the way" people are talking about in the comments sections. And trust me, I see you. There's a lot of you. Now if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more tech content with questionable humor, and drop a comment letting me know what games you play on Linux, or if you tried Linux gaming and it went horribly wrong. Those stories are pretty entertaining too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.